Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. The Chicago Cubs are in the driver's seat as the season's second half gets underway. A 5-game set with the Cards concludes today. We'll talk about that series, the resurrection of Anthony Rizzo. We'll look at the trade market and have an update on Cubs injuries. Cubs are 57-40 coming into today's action, up 2.5 games on the Brewers and a 7.5 game advantage on the Cardinals. Cubs and Cards with 4 games done already this weekend and a 5th happening this afternoon. Each team taking 2 of the first 4. Cubs probably should have taken 3 of 4, having last night's game get away with bullpen struggles late in that one. Matt Carpenter is in one of the hottest streaks you will see. Home runs in 6 games in a row. 8 home runs over those 6 games, including 3 homers on Friday. He went 5 for 5 on Friday, 3 home runs and 2 doubles. Only the second time someone has accomplished that feat, Kris Bryant doing that 2 years ago in Cincinnati. All 4 games of this series have been pretty competitive, except for Friday's 18-5 win by the Cards. Jon Lester with a rough outing. Walks were a problem, 5 of those, as well as 7 hits, leading to 8 runs in just 3 innings. Bass and Dunsing pretty ineffective out of the bullpen on Friday. So Joe Maddon turned to the position players. He used 3 position players as pitchers on Friday. We saw Tommy La Stella in the 6th and 7th, Victor Caratini in the 8th, and Ian Happ covered the 9th inning. Great outing last night by Mike Montgomery, nullified by bullpen struggles. Justin Wilson started the 9th with 2 walks, although you can't blame him for walking Matt Carpenter. Steve Cishek was hammered before Dylan Maples came on for the final 2 outs. Cards put up 3 in the 9th to win 6-3. Final 3 frames had the Cards scoring 1, 1, and 3, and you are not going to win too many games like that. Joe Maddon has utilized Anthony Rizzo in the leadoff spot the last 7 games. Results have been incredible. Maddon has used this tactic before. You've got a guy struggling, so Maddon puts the guy at the top of the lineup to get him going, and it typically pays off. In fact, he did this with Anthony Rizzo at one point last season, and Rizzo responded in a big way, and now that's happening again. A .542 average for Anthony Rizzo these last 7 games, not just making contact, but has a handful of doubles and a triple. He's drawing walks. His strikeouts are way down. Unsure how long this Rizzo leadoff experiment will last, but it is a much-needed spark for this offense. I say that even though the Cubs offense is at the top of most offensive categories in the National League. And that's happened with Rizzo struggling pretty much all year and Kris Bryant having issues, some of them injury-related here the last several weeks. We are 9 days from the Major League Baseball trading deadline. Cubs are expected to add an arm, perhaps 2. They've already made 1 move, acquiring Jesse Chavez from the Texas Rangers on Thursday. He did make his Cubs debut yesterday, going 2 innings in the first game of the doubleheader. Adding another left-handed arm in the bullpen is expected. That could be Zach Britton of the Orioles. Has been a lot of talk that the Cubs are in great pursuit of Britton. But if the price is too high, there are other options for the Cubs. Some have said the Cubs should pursue another starter. I really don't think that is going to happen. Yu Darvish perhaps could return in a week and a half or so, at least according to earlier reports. And Mike Montgomery has done a great job in his 10 starts. And if another starter is needed late August or September, Drew Smyly could fill that role because he is on the Cubs roster. He was signed during the offseason. He's recovering from Tommy John surgery, so he has not been on the active roster. He hasn't seen any action, obviously, because of the recovery, but he should be available to the Cubs prior to the postseason. Now, I think 2 potential targets for the Cubs include the Reds closer, Raisel Iglesias. He is a right-handed reliever, and I know there's a lot of talk that they want to add another lefty in the bullpen, but Iglesias is the real deal, and he's under team control for a couple of years. So I think contractually it makes sense. Performance-wise, it makes sense. He's not a high-salary guy. Should be a pretty good addition, especially with the durability questions surrounding Brandon Morrow. Probably won't need to give up too much for him. As I said earlier, I don't think the Cubs are going to add a starter, but if they do, I would possibly say Chris Archer would be the guy. Having an off year this year with Tampa Bay, I think he's got 2 more starts prior to the trade deadline. That could determine his worth at the deadline. He showed himself to be an all-star in the past, and he's under contract through 2021. So I think that fits into the mold of what you like to see Theo Epstein go after. Guys with team control for a little while and obviously good performance on the mound. If you have thoughts on my picks or who you would like to see the Cubs go after, or maybe you want a voice on who you think they should trade away, Facebook or tweet with us at Bricks Bleachers. Injury update for the Cubs. Yu Darvish had been expected to return in the next couple of weeks. That had been what was expected for quite some time, right around the trade deadline. And that's definitely tricky for the front office to decide how to proceed with any possible moves. Darvish did play catch today. Theo says that session went well. Pitching coach Jim Hickey on the radio a couple days ago said Darvish is still weeks away from returning. So who knows what that timetable will be. Cubs expect and need a healthy Darvish down the stretch. Brandon Morrow back on the DL, biceps inflammation. No timetable for his return. I don't want to be negative, but I'm a big believer in Theo and what he's built in Boston and here in Chicago. But look at 3 recent high-profile acquisitions. Yu Darvish, Brandon Morrow in the offseason, and Justin Wilson at the deadline last year. Wilson has greatly struggled with control since coming from Detroit. Darvish and Morrow both slowed by injuries. Morrow's otherwise performed pretty well with the Cubs. Darvish has not. Now let's talk about guys recently back from the DL. You've got Chris Bryant, Carl Edwards Jr., and Brian Densing. Bryant and Edwards solid so far in their return. Densing has had some control issues much of this year. Our This and That segment, a look at what's happening around Major League Baseball. Manny Machado made his Dodgers debut Friday night. 3 for 8 at his first 2 games in L.A. No homers yet, but you figure he's due for one today or tomorrow. Nationals continue with their struggles out of the All-Star break. Steven Strasburg came back from the DL Friday night. It was his birthday. Game got away from him, and tempers flared as well. He and Max Scherzer exchanging words in the dugout and clubhouse as well. Not sure exactly what was being discussed, but hopefully for the Nationals' sake, they can move on from that. They are close to where the Cubs were record-wise a year ago, but the Nationals just really have not seemed to be able to find their stride yet this year. It will be interesting to see if they make any moves at the deadline, what the rest of the season may hold in store, because the expectations for the Nationals are pretty high. Reds opting for a 6-man rotation till further notice, although that could be short-lived. Matt Harvey has been great since being picked up from the Mets, and it's expected the Reds will flip Harvey to a contender and continue building for their future. Cubs and Cards wrap up their 5-game series at Wrigley Field this afternoon. Jose Quintana and Miles Mikolas, the matchup on the mound. Mikolas went to the All-Star game with a 10-3 record, ERA under 3. He's won 3 of his last 4 starts. Quintana hasn't pitched for almost 2 weeks, has won his last 2 starts. He's 8-6, ERA just under 4. Anthony Rizzo, the leadoff spot again today. He's been red hot in that position. Cubs have won 5 of the 7 games with Rizzo in the leadoff spot. See it this afternoon on ABC7 or TBS. Cubs kick off a 4-game series with the Diamondbacks tomorrow night in that ultra-competitive National League West. 8:05 Eastern first pitch both Monday and Tuesday. 2:20 Eastern start times on Wednesday and Thursday before a 3-game set for the Cubs in St. Louis. Rotation for the Diamondbacks series is up in the air, specifically Monday. Who becomes the 6th starter for the Cubs on Monday? It is not known yet. It could be Luke Farrell. Have been a couple reports saying he could be the guy if he doesn't pitch in today's ball game. Farrell has had a pretty good year bouncing around between Chicago and Iowa. And then we assume that the rotation will continue where it was coming out of the All-Star game with Kyle Hendricks followed by John Lester. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. And even though we're short on time, can we say real quick, Kyle Schwarber in the Home Run Derby was really fun, and hopefully he'll do it again. All right. Connect and comment with us anytime. Bricks Bleachers on Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to the show on iHeartRadio or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast.